ambassadors, excellencies, Claire, of course, and then the private sector, all protocol observed, as they say in this part of the world. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm glad to still feel some energy in the room, notwithstanding the fact that you've heard already quite a few speeches here. I just want to add to the conversation that you've been having already, that we've been having already since this morning, just a few points from my perspective. I mean, the first one is basically taking a bit of a step back, because I do think we are living in historic times. We're living in momentous times where basically a lot of the ways in which we have been operating are changing. Geopolitics are part of it, geoeconomics are part of it, and international partnerships are part of it. And I think the way in which different parts of the world engage with each other, it is fundamentally changing. It started to change many years ago. I think COVID-19 has added a booster to it, and of course the spillover effects of Russia's war against Ukraine add a further impetus to it. We are moving towards a multipolar world, still very much interconnected, but where the fragilities of this interconnectivity are becoming clear, and therefore we are all striving to basically build a much stronger resilience against those kind of tensions and those kind of upheavals. And that means that basically the continuum between politics, economics, and international partnerships is more stronger than ever. You may have noticed, but the department where I work, together with Cecile and plenty of other people, I mean, when President von der Leyen started her mandate at the European Commission, we basically changed the name of the department. It used to be called the Directorate General for Development Cooperation, and it is now called the Directorate General for International Partnerships, and that was done for a reason. We felt that development cooperation as a term, as a notion, was basically outdated. It somehow incorporates still the thinking about a part of the world being rich and another part being poor, and therefore a cooperation that is built between those who are developed and those who still need to develop. A paradigm of donor-recipient that is still enshrined in it. And that no longer responds to the world in which we live today. Actually, it responds less and less as years go by to the world in which we live. And that's why we felt that we needed to change that name, drop development cooperation, and call it for what we are increasingly becoming, which is a world where we try to support international partnerships. And in those international partnerships, the economy is absolutely central. It is a central piece of it, and it is a fundamental one. And from that point of view, if I look at the relations between Europe and Africa, actually we have an outstanding starting point. If you look at it between the two continents, I mean, we are already each other's major investment and trade partners. Actually, Africa is the fourth biggest trading partner of Europe. After the United States, China, and the United Kingdom, Africa, as a continent, is Europe's fourth largest trading partner. You're bigger, basically, than Japan, New Zealand, Australia, and so on. And if you look at it from an FDI point of view, Europe is Africa's first investor. If you look at the greenfield FDI flows to Africa over the past 5 years, Europe is by far your first source of foreign direct investment. And I think all of that is enshrined in an increasingly strong package of frameworks. We have very solid trade agreements. We have economic partnership agreements. I mean, Rwanda as an LDC has duty-free and quota-free access to the European market on a unilateral basis through everything but arms, but we are building these kind of regional frameworks as well through the economic partnership agreements, which we are upgrading gradually in their quality. We're now turning them into economic partnership and investment agreements. We are starting to build those increasingly, and we want to make sure that the whole regional dimension of it is important, because the whole regional value chains, your regional economic integration is an essential part of it, and that's why we have an economic partnership agreement with the East African community, which still needs to be signed and ratified indeed. There's still a bit of work, notably on your side, that needs to be done, but we'll get there. Now, having these frameworks and these figures is all very important, but we still need to keep putting juice in it. I think there's still scope to put more meat on the bones, to put more blood in the veins. And that's where I think fora like these are absolutely fundamental. I think it's very good to see this kind of mobilization of the private sector. I remember 10, 15 years ago when we were touring Europe and talking about Africa as a thriving destination for investment with plenty of opportunities. I mean, when I was speaking in European member states, I mean, you would have 15, 20 companies show up. When you now talk about investing in Africa, the room is full. It's fully packed. And so your continent is absolutely grabbing the attention of European private sector, of European businesses. And I think a business forum like this one, I mean, is one example, is one building block of how we try to do that. Now, we know that whereas the private sector is absolutely fundamental, that there is still more that is needed. And that's where Global Gateway comes in. Global Gateway basically is a strategic framework which we adopted slightly less than 2 years ago, and that has as a purpose to use public funding to actually drive investments in our partner countries, notably focused on 5 priorities. It's about the green transition, it's about the digital transition, it's about transport connectivity, it's about investments in pharmaceutical and health, and it's about investments in education, research, and innovation. These are the 5 big pillars of the Global Gateway.